Welcome to Lecture 7. This time, we'll be discussing the reproductive and urinary system, important subjects that need special attention and require a nuanced approach when interviewing and examining patients. I want to start by acknowledging that privileges and oppressions are reflected in vocabularies and terminologies. Some widely used terminologies can also be inaccurate and/or offensive. Our goal is to have an academic discussion on the medical Mandarin terminologies, which require us to refer to these terminologies in order to discuss them. We refer them to discuss and not to offend. To say sex, it will be 生理性别 and gender 社会性别. Sexual orientation is 性取向. LGBTQIA+ community will be 性少数群体. 少数 meaning the minority. Gay or lesbian is 同性恋. You can specify by saying 男同性恋 or 女同性恋. Bisexual is 双性恋. Asexual will be 无性恋. And pansexual 泛性恋. Heterosexual will be 异性恋. Transgender is better translated as 跨性别. Gender fluid will be 流性 or 性别流动者, the previous as an adjective, and the latter referring to the person. Intersex will be 双性人, which really isn't an accurate translation, but is the one being accepted in China. Queer will be 酷儿, and pronouns 人称代词. To say sexual partner, it will be 性伴侣. Sexual intercourse will be 性交 or 性行为. Penetrative sex is 插入性性交. Oral sex is 口交, and anal sex 肛交. Masturbation is better translated as 自慰. 慰 actually meaning to comfort. Menstruation is 月经. The process of menstruating is called 经血来潮, whereas the product, menses, is 经血. Puberty is 青春期. Menopause, 更年期. Pregnancy is 怀孕. Labor is either called 分娩 or 生产. Contraction is 阵痛. 阵 meaning coming in waves, and 痛, of course, meaning pain. Breastfeeding is 哺乳. And vaginal discharge is often called 白带, meaning the white stripe. We've talked about some of the hormones last lecture, but here's a list of sex hormones. To say GnRH, or gonadotropin releasing hormone, it is 促性腺激素释放激素. The follicular stimulating hormone is 卵泡刺激素. The follicle is 卵泡, and stimulating is 刺激. Luteinizing hormone is 促黄体生成素. Corpus luteum is 黄体. Prolactin is 催乳素. Androgen is 雄性激素, and estrogen 雌激素. Testosterone specifically is called 睾丸酮, whereas progesterone is either called 孕酮 or 黄体酮. The HCG is 绒毛膜促性腺激素. For these translations, I want to note that there's no official guidelines on LGBTQIA+ terminology in China. So what is presented here are neutral terms accepted by some communities. But you should always mirror your patient's choice of words when they're describing themselves. The Chinese term 性别 does not discriminate sex from gender. So sex is better translated as 生理性别, 生理 meaning anatomy, whereas gender is better translated as 社会性别, 社会 meaning the society. Lastly, legal sex can be translated as 法律性别. One example of a term that's accepted by the queer community is 酷儿, which means queer. Lastly, a note on the term transgender in Mandarin. A common term for translating it is 异性病 or 异装癖 病 meaning an illness, and P meaning a bad habit. So both of the terms are harmful and inaccurate. Lastly, 异装癖 is used to describe cross-dressing and not transgender. A common term accepted to mean masturbation in Chinese is 自淫 or 手淫. However, you should know 淫 means inappropriateness regarding to sexual activities. So it's better to say 自慰 when referring to masturbation. Sexual activity can also be translated as 做爱, 房事, or 同房. Those are colloquial but respectful terms. One term used to refer to labor or delivery is 生产, but in an economic sense, it also means production. So, in any case, you can use 分娩 to avoid confusion. To say delivery ward, you can say 产房, and C-section is 剖腹产. Lastly, 例假 and 大姨妈 are common colloquial terms for menstruation. There are other terms depending on the dialect and regionality as well. You should always ask your patient what they mean when you're not sure. Here are some practice sentences. To ask, when was the last time you had your period? Is your period regular? You can say, 您上次来月经是什么时候? 您月经有规律吗? Alternatively, you can say, 您上次月经来潮是什么时候? To say, we ask everyone these questions. Are you sexually active? What is the gender of your sexual partner? You can say, 我们会问所有人这些问题. 您有性生活吗? 您的性伴侣是什么性别? Are you sexually active can also be translated as 您有性活动吗? Let's talk about the reproductive anatomy. Breast is either 乳房 or 乳腺. 乳腺 more specifically meaning the glands. Genital is 生殖器. External genitalia is 外生殖器, while internal genitalia 内生殖器. Ovary is 卵巢, and fallopian tube 输卵管. 输 meaning to transport. Corpus luteum is 黄体. Uterus is 子宫, and endometrium 子宫内膜. Cervix is 子宫颈, and the vagina 阴道. Labia minora is 小阴唇, and labia majora 大阴唇. The clitoris is called 阴蒂. Hymen is 处女膜, and the Bartholin's gland 巴氏腺 or 前庭大腺. The penis is called 阴茎, the foreskin 包皮. Erectile tissue is 勃起组织. Erection is 勃起. Ejaculation is 射精. Testes is 睾丸, and the scrotum 阴囊. Nang meaning a bag. Vas deferens is 输精管. The seminal vesicle 精囊腺. Inguinal canal is 腹股沟管. Fu meaning the abdomen, gu is another term for the thigh, and go meaning a trough. Sperm is 精子, and the semen 精液. The ovum is called 卵子, and fertilization is called 受精. 受 meaning to accept, and 精 of course refers to the sperm. Embryo is either called 胚胎 or 受精卵. Fetus is 胎儿, and baby 婴儿. Amniotic fluid is 羊水, and the amniotic sac 羊水膜. The placenta is called 胎盘, and umbilical cord 脐带. Bladder is 膀胱, and the urethra 尿道. The urethral opening is 尿道口. Ureter is 输尿管. The sphincter is 括约肌, and kidney 肾脏. Prostate is 前列腺. To say dysmenorrhea, it will be 痛经. Amenorrhea is either called 闭经 or 无月经. Heavy menstruation is 月经过多, whereas spotting will be 少量出血. Abnormal vaginal discharge is commonly called 白带异常 in Chinese. Hot flash is either called 潮热 or 燥热. Hematuria is 尿血. Proteinuria 蛋白尿. Dysuria is 尿痛 or 排尿困难. The latter is just generally difficulty with urination. Incontinence is 失禁. Urinary retention is either called 尿滞留, which is the academic term, or 尿不尽, the common term. Frequent urination is 尿频, and urinary urge, 尿意 or 尿急. We want to note that 处女膜 directly translates to the virgin membrane. This term is not only inaccurate, but also harmful, especially in the Chinese culture where virginity complex still prevails. We want to recognize the inadequacy of this terminology. We also cannot provide a better translation, since this is the term widely used in China. Here are some practice. We need to do a pelvic exam to check your vagina and cervix. I'm going to examine your uterus and ovaries as well. 我们需要做一个盆腔检查，以检查您的阴道和子宫。我也将检查您的子宫和卵巢。To say, 尿急和尿不尽经常是前列腺问题的症状。In English, that is, frequent urge to urinate and urinary retention are often signs of prostate issues. Here are some sentences that you can use when doing the pelvic exam. To say, pelvic exam includes examining the external genitalia visually and placing a speculum in the vagina. That will be, 盆腔检查包括目视检查外生殖器和在阴道内放置内窥器。内窥器 meaning the speculum, 内 meaning inside, 窥 meaning to see through a hole. The speculum will expand the vagina, and I will use the brush to collect samples for the pap smear. That is, 内窥器将扩张阴道，然后我将用刷子收集宫颈图片样本。To say, during the bimanual exam, I'll examine the cervix with one hand and press on your stomach with another hand. That is, 双手盆腔检查时，我将用一只手检查子宫颈，另一只手按压您的腹部。To say, you'll feel pressure but not pain. If you say stop, I'll stop immediately. That is, 您会感觉到压力，但不会有疼痛。如果您说停，我会立即停止。When instructing the patient, please place your knee to the sides. You'll feel a hand on your inner thigh. That will be, 请将您的膝盖移到两侧。您将感觉到手触碰您的大腿内侧。Now place the speculum. Please relax this muscle. 我现在将放置内窥器，请放松这部分肌肉。Would you like a mirror to see the exam process? That will be, 您想要一面镜子来看检查流程吗？ Here are some OBGYN and urinary conditions. To say ectopic pregnancy, that will be 子宫外孕。Eclampsia is 子痫, whereas preeclampsia is 子痫前兆. That is written in the workbook. Miscarriage is 流产. Postpartum hemorrhage is 产后大出血. Bartholin's cyst is 前庭大腺囊肿. Vaginitis is 阴道炎. Endometriosis is 子宫内膜异位. PCOS is 多囊卵巢综合征. Polycystic is 多囊. Uterine fibroids is 子宫肌瘤. 子宫肌 meaning the muscles of the uterus, and 瘤 meaning a tumor. Adenomyosis is 子宫腺疾病. Cervical cancer is 宫颈癌. Prolapse is either called 下垂 or 脱垂. The urinary tract infection, 尿路感染. Pyelonephritis, 肾脏感染. Erectile dysfunction is 勃起障碍. Benign prostate hypertrophy is 良性前列腺增生. Prostatitis is 前列腺炎, and prostate cancer, 前列腺癌. Infertility is called 不孕不育. Sexually transmitted infections is called 性传播感染. A common colloquial term is 性病. The HIV, when referring to the virus, is called 人体免疫缺损病毒, and the common term is 艾滋病病毒. AIDS commonly is called 艾滋病, and academically is called 获得性免疫缺陷综合征. 获得 meaning acquire, 免疫 immune, 缺陷 deficiency. Chlamydia is called 衣原体病. Gonorrhea is 淋病, and herpes 疱疹. Syphilis is 梅毒. Kidney stone 肾结石, and acute kidney injury 急性肾损伤. Chronic kidney disease 慢性肾病, and renal failure 肾衰竭. Hydronephrosis is 肾盂积水. 肾盂 meaning the renal pelvis. Dehydration is 脱水. Intimate partner violence is called 伴侣暴力. Sexual violence 性暴力, and rape 强奸. Urinalysis is 尿液分析, and urine culture 尿液培养. Pregnancy test is 验孕. Pelvic exam is 盆腔检查, and pap smear 宫颈图片, as we mentioned in the practice sentences before. Biopsy is 活检. Fetal ultrasound exam is 胎儿超声波检查, or simply B 超检查. Mammography is 乳房 X 光. Prostate-specific antigen is 前列腺特异抗原. Genetic testing, 基因检测. There are different ectomies in OBGYN. Lumpectomy is 肿块切除术. Mastectomy, 乳房切除术. Oophorectomy, 卵巢切除术, and hysterectomy, 子宫切除术. Tubal ligation will be 输卵管结扎术, whereas vasectomy will be 输精管结扎术. To say circumcision, it is 包皮环割术, or 割包皮 as the colloquial term. It is not routinely done for newborns in China. Prostatectomy is 前列腺切除术. C-section is 剖腹产. To say in vitro fertilization, that will be 体外受精. Or a common term is 试管婴儿. 试管 meaning test tube. Abortion will be 人工流产 or 堕胎. Remember that 流产 meaning miscarriage. Birth control is 避孕 or 节育. Birth control pill is 避孕药, and IUD 宫内避孕器. Condom is 避孕套, and lubrication 润滑液. Tampons is called 卫生棉条, and menstrual pad 卫生巾. Diuretic is 利尿药, and dialysis 透析. Kidney transplant 肾脏移植, and pelvic muscle exercise 骨盆底肌运动. You may also hear it as Kegel exercise and being phonetically translated in Chinese. Diaper is 尿不湿. Catheter 导尿管. Police report 警方报告. Counseling 心理咨询, and social support 社交支持. Here are some practices to round out this lecture. Mammography and pap smears are important tools to screen for cancer in women. 乳房 X 光检查和宫颈图片是筛查女性癌症的重要工具. Condoms have a higher failure rate than birth control pills and IUDs, but can protect against STI. 避孕套的失败率高于避孕药和宫内避孕器，但可以防止性传播感染. Saying 尿路感染不及时治疗可能会蔓延至膀胱和肾脏，导致严重的并发症. That is, UTI, if not treated promptly, can spread to the bladder and kidney, causing severe complications. To say 月经不规律、闭经和潮热是更年期的正常症状. That will be irregular period, amenorrhea, and hot flashes are normal signs of menopause. Lastly, when saying to the patient, This is a safe environment where you can disclose anything. However, I need to let you know that we legally have to report assault and abuse. In Chinese, that is, 这是一个安全的环境，您可以在这里谈任何问题。但我要告诉您，法律要求我们必须报告人身伤害和虐待。Thank you for listening to this lecture. As always, we have no conflict of interest. The text in the PowerPoint and workbook is written by me, with additional help from members of CMEG at UCLA. Video editing is done by Jasmine. We'll see you in the next lecture.